Hello, friends. Greetings, good morning, wherever, which part of the world you are. This is a very, very special show for me. Today is probably the reason why I wanted to start this series. I have a very special guest with me today, and you, in a moment, you will meet the guest. What we will do today is that I also have a co-host today, and we will be together speaking to one of the pioneers of the modern quality management movement across the world, more or less, and definitely in India, right? The pioneer of total quality management in India. A small anecdote. In the 1990s, when Dr. J M Juran was working on the compilation of a world history of quality, yes, there is a book called World History of Quality. He gave India a very special place in the book, and there were 10 editors for this book, and these were very, very cautiously selected across by those who know Dr. Juran or have heard of him or have read his works. Extremely meticulous and cautious person. And when it came to India, he chose the person we will be speaking to today to be one of the editors, right? So you may doubt my choice, but you should surely not doubt Dr. Juran's choice. And so, hello, friends. If you are here for the first time, my name is Anshuman Tiwari, your host for the show, Manage Better. This show is live on LinkedIn Live, YouTube, and Twitter today. All archives are available on my website, managebetter.in, and of course on the YouTube and LinkedIn channels. Do subscribe so that you can get the alert for the next episode. As I keep telling everybody who cares, that this show is about getting better every day, every month, every year. None of us have a control on where we start in life, but we can surely control the journey. We can surely design our future. Where are we going? What are we doing? How can we get better? What do we do about it? And those kinds. So this show is more or less dedicated to all of us who want to get better by learning from others. So I try and bring teachers, coaches, consultants, and authors who deeply connect with this theme of manage better. And let me now bring in my co-host for the session, Balaji Reddy, very good friend and a quality management practitioner and a teacher. He is the founder of the Deming Forum of India. And hi, Balaji. So a little bit about him. He's one of the foremost authorities on Deming principles and general quality management in India, and teaches primarily through Deming's teachings. His contributions recently were also part of a course titled 12 Days to Deming. And in very simple terms, he just loves to teach. And that's half the reason why I have him here. Half the reason is that, I, of course, having trained under Dr. Lulla, or, have a slightly Juran, slant. And I don't think the legacy is fulfilled unless we have a Deming perspective as well. So, Balaji, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I will now bring in the guest for today. And but before I go there, let me give you a little bit of a introduction. Not much introduction is required, but let me try. So, Mr. Suresh Lulla pioneered the quality movement in India by setting up Qimpro Consultants in 1987. Those of you who've been in this field will remember that there were two other big events in 1987. One was the Malcolm Baldrige National Award was instituted, and also the ISO 9001 standard was brought in. So in the same year, one person was leading the quality charge in India, and that is Suresh Lulla. Qimpro has, of course, served reputed Indian business houses, MNCs, you name it, hospitals more recently. And the signature claim is that the company or the consulting group has helped Indian companies save over 25,000 crores. 25,000 crores by working on quality improvement, reducing cost of poor quality, and the likes, right? Mr. Lulla is a distinguished alumnus of IIT Bombay. And let me now bring him into the stream. Sir, namaste. And we will just a little bit more on you, and then we'll get into the questions. I would strongly urge all audience to look at sureshlulla.com or even Qimpro.com for more on him. And but a little bit, he's a veteran of over 50 years in the industry, and we all know him as a storyteller. But his other avatars are, of course, consultant, speaker, trainer, and author, and mentor to many quality professionals like Balaji and me. The one of the lasting legacies is, of course, called Qualitech Prize. This was instituted in 1989. Quite a few of you in the call today or in the session today may not have been born around that time. So and he's still in this Qualitech Prize is still India's foremost quality excellence program. In 1993 came the extremely famous and the seminal book that changed my course of life, and this is the uh, edition that came out through Business Today. That was the annual edition of Business Today that year, and that brought me into quality. I read through it and just could not take my eyes off, and that was the reason why I then subsequently wanted to join Mr. Lulla's company and work with him. More about that later. Over the years, then in 1995 he established the IMC Quality Awards Committee, brought the Juran Award to India, and notably the Dr. Juran Medal for the IMC Juran Medal was at that time the only medal that Dr. Juran allowed his name to be attached to while he was alive. Such was the friendship and influence Mr. Lulla had with Dr. Juran. And in as time went by, in 2000s, came Qimpro Foundation, catalyzing quality in healthcare and education. Later on came Best Practice Club, and then another book, the World Class Quality Executive Handbook, in 2003. And in more recent years, he's been publishing quality fables, stories. Like I said, he's foremost a storyteller to all of us, and the list goes on. So I would actually strongly urge all of you to check him on LinkedIn at sureshlulla.com or qimpro.com, and you'll be enriched. But having introduced Mr. Lulla in this way, I'm sure that he actually considers the foremost, I would say, achievement of his to be mentoring two generations of qualitists, a term we will now talk about in this session today. With that, I bring you Mr. Lulla. Welcome to the show, sir, and a pleasure speaking to you like always. Any opening comments or something from you, and then we get into the show.
Thank you, Anshuman. You embarrassed me with all the long things that you have listed. Yes, I do remember that anniversary issue of Business Today, which was a turning point when Business Today asked me to be a co-editor for a consultant for that issue. And it includes interviews with Dr. Juran also. So, a lot of the industrialists were boys at that time. So if you look at some of the pictures, you will actually smile when you see such young people and how they embraced quality as a differentiator. This was just when liberalization was introduced. So everyone was keen to become global. And yes, that was a landmark, a turning point in my career.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Balaji, would you like to initiate the session and, let's fire the questions for Mr. Lulla today?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Anshuman. Morning, sir. Morning, everybody. Before I ask my questions to Suresh, I just want to touch on the main points that Anshuman brought up. Some of the events, the epoch-making events that he outlined. One was the 1989 Qualitech Prize. I need to talk about that. The 1993 issue that he just showed up. It's amazing that Even I have it, but I need to look for it. And the follow-up issue that came a couple of years later, managing customer value. I think these are my Bibles for quality. And the third I'd like to talk about is the 2003 handbook, the executive handbook. 1989, my introduction to the world of quality was 1994. And I worked in a company with a gentleman. I mean, he was my boss, my everything, Mr. R.V. Ramachandran. He used to be the ex-CMMD of Kirloskar Cummins before he set up a range of companies, and I worked in one of them. And there, the literature used to be lying around, some books. He read a lot. And this was one of the books, The Proceedings of the 1989 Qualtech Prize. And I came across this in 1994. And I remember having seen Suresh sir's photo there. And, I just had a secret kind of a desire that one day I want to meet this man and shake hands with him. And my word, did I ever think that this would happen? Well, that was one of the dots. Came in 1993, of course, when I got into the world of quality, and this was the first Business Today that I read, TQM, and that was it. And like I said, I followed it up with, in fact, that's the reason why I took a 5-year subscription to Business Today, followed by Managing Customer Value, etc. In 2003, when the Executive Handbook was being written, the chapter that Mr. R.V. Ramachandran wrote was on reliability. And I want to take the opportunity to say this. Suresh sir, do you know, I proofread that. And in fact, I added a few things and gave it back to sir and said, and he said, do you know where this is being published? And then when it came in print in a bookshop and I saw it, it was so amazing to see that we had put together these things. So in some way, I was connected with these things. You can see this only in hindsight. But my meeting with Suresh sir came in 2004 when for the first time, I saw him in person on stage. Otherwise, we had met. I just saw him from afar. This was, we celebrated Dr. Juran's centenary at Mumbai, at Hilton International. So this was basically the connecting the dots bit. So, sir, I'd like to now get down to business. I mean, if I continue with this, it'll be more emotional than anything else. But for us, Suresh sir, you being our pioneer, our Dr. Juran, our only connect to the pioneers in the world. Everybody knows the story now. I mean, W. Edwards Deming and Joseph Juran were the pioneers. They created what we know as a quality profession. We all exist because of what they did. My question to you on this, okay, would be, how did you get into quality? Was it by accident? Was it by design? Did you start in this field, or were you introduced to it a little later? And also, if you could highlight a few things like the books that you had read and you would recommend, or articles or journals. I mean, just generally, if you could tell us how you were introduced to the world of quality.
I don't know. You listen to your heart. And when I was in IIT Bombay, one subject that fascinated me was statistical quality control. Mind it was a lot of statistics, and all you did was maintain a standard. But that was quality. I went to Wayne State University after that for my master's. And a course I enrolled for right at the beginning was reliability engineering. I think that was the transformation. To see quality as fit for use in industry. Quality was not statistics. It was about user, not just the buyer. It's about the user. And I was fascinated. I think in my study time, I spent 50% of my time reading more and more about reliability engineering. And terms like MTBF, mean time between failure, mean time to restore, became part of my DNA. Also, how to predict warranties, etc. And all this came alive because the person teaching was from General Motors. You know, a practitioner teaching you gives you a lot more insights into the subject. He also took us to the plants and so on, and made us realize that ultimately it is performance in the field. And so that was my build up. Unfortunately, I didn't get any reliability job in America. I was branded as an economist for some reason. My job with Sun Oil Company was economic analyst, and then with Schmidt's Brewery as a marketing economist. I don't know what that means. All I was doing was programming with Fortran. I was quite adept at that. I came back to India and thought I was so good at programming, I'll walk to TCS, Tata Consulting Services. And Mr. F.C. Kohli heard me out and said, you know, you're overqualified for us. So I'm going to refer you to our sister company, Tata Economic Consultancy Services. So once again, I became an economist. Now, this was getting to me because I had no qualification. And why they called me an economist, I didn't know. So I moved to a firm called A.F. Ferguson and Company, Management Consulting Division, which was absolutely a new field at that time. The company was made up of chartered accountants. And here was a hardcore engineer coming in to teach management consulting. So I was an outlier. They couldn't find an assignment for me, so they sent me to their most difficult client, Kirloskar Cummins, which was headed by a person called R.V. Ramchandran, whom Balaji referred to. This person had on his dashboard MTTR, MTBF. That's all he looked at. He said, if that's right, my company is doing right. And that started a relationship. There were 5 dealers at that time in the network. We worked our way to 83 dealers in the network. And each one was being taught how to measure failures in the field and how to measure time to restore. All that became, 7 years I kept going 3 days a week to Pune, and it was only this. With that, I traveled all over the country in mines and shipbuilding and gensets, suppliers, etc., etc. It was an eye opener. Nuxals were around, trains, and you name it. But I did it. I was young and unafraid. And that's part of the humor is they assigned one person from Kirloskar Cummins with me, and he believed in ghosts. And he saw ghosts everywhere. So I will narrate those stories some other time. But I had a whole series of ghost stories with a person called Jayachan.
Okay.
So here we are.
Yeah, so I think
So
that's a good segue, sir. We a good summary of your early years. But what Balaji and I were also quite keen to know, and part of the story we know, but we want the audience to also know, is that, you know, how did then obviously Qimpro happen, right? So the contribution, this thing, what were the early years like? Like you mentioned, the reliability and the economics part, and obviously something led to from Ferguson to this thing. But how did Qimpro happen, and what were the early years like? Who were the first few clients? We know about the Punjab tractor story, but can you share a little bit on that?
Oh, Qimpro it didn't happen, it was gifted. Ramchandran, I come back to the same gentleman, kept telling me, you're wasting your time in management consulting, you need to do something different. He and his competitor, who was also my client from Caterpillar, Ramesh Daga, used to fly to Columbus, Ohio, Columbus, Indiana,
India.
regularly. On one flight, they got seats together, side by side. And the whole journey apparently was spent talking about the idiotic Suresh Lulla, who doesn't know what his potential is. And the two of them plotted and went to Juran Institute on that very trip in Connecticut and represented me and came back with a contract and handed it to me and said, this is what you're going to do. They funded it. They were my first directors. So that's how it got started. Now, here we are talking of improvement, challenging the standard. There we have ISO, which Anshuman mentioned, which is maintain the standard. Now, between maintaining the standard and challenging the standard, and Baldrige is saying, set the standard. There's a lot of confusion, and the most convenient was maintain the standard. So if I spoke about quality improvement, I used to get corrected by whoever I was speaking to. You mean quality control? I said, no, I mean quality improvement. And this went on for 2 years. I didn't have a client. Dr. Juran got worried. So he told me, speak their language. Speak the language of money. They'll bite. Don't use the word quality. And that led to my first client, Tata Steel, Mr. Rusi Modi. So as a qualitist, I asked a question, what's your failure rate? He said, 3%. I was taken aback. 3%? What is your cost of poor quality? He said, nothing. Even my seconds have a demand, a pent-up demand. I send it to the open market in Calcutta, and they attract a premium price. Now, how do I talk to a very dominating chef person, Rusi Modi? If any of you can remember, he was huge. So I delicately told him what are the components, internal failures, external failure, etc., and he did some off-the-cuff numbers, and we agreed to 10% of my total cost, cost of poor quality. I wanted to tell him 30, but I didn't dare to do anything. 10 was good enough. He said, will you tell my top management this? So he called me to Dimna, and top management was sitting. First row, Dr. J J Irani, Mr. K.C. Mehra, Ishat Hussain, you name the top guns. And I, a boy, shifting from one leg to the other, talking to them. To the credit and integrity of these people, they collectively came up with a number 35% of sales. Dr. Irani said, if that is the case, then we should be the lowest cost steel producer in the world by 2000. This meeting was happening in 1989. They became the lowest cost steel producer in the world for a few product lines in 1999. And by 2002, it was in all. They learned the art of identifying 6 steel plants, acquiring them, turning them around, making them profitable, all through quality improvement practices. That's the first one. There were others also. And if you'd like to hear and if you have the time, I'd be happy to share.
I think quite enchanting stories, and this is for everyone in the audience. This is the story of the quality movement in India. This is not the story of a company, not the story of a person. This is the story of the modern quality movement, of course, in India, and we are listening it from the person who initiated and crafted that story. Balaji, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I was just listening in, and we've heard Suresh sir narrate this and about caterpillars so many times, but every time he narrates it, it's the thrill, of hearing it again, and then it's fantastic the way he narrates it. There are actually so many more details which he shares, but anyway, we don't have time for that. As Sir was speaking about these things about Qimpro and how he started, like I said, I just saw the 1989 Qualtech Awards, and but later on, I think Sir also brought in a lot of changes in the overall quality world in India. One of them was, of course, the Ramakrishna Bajaj National Quality Award, which was modeled on Malcolm Baldrige. And then came the Qimpro Awards themselves, the Qimpro Foundation. I mean, there was so much that you just narrated, but uh, a bit about that part of the journey. I mean, when you started establishing, when Quimpro started spreading its tentacles and getting a lot of credibility and traction. The best part is you never stopped at anything. So could you tell us what were the real the inspiration behind uh, getting Ramakrishna Bajaj National Quality Award going, and then the Quimpro Awards, besides, of course, Qualtech, which we completed 30 years, I think, a couple of years ago, and
33.
it's 33, yeah. So, I mean, could you just share a bit? I mean, how you thought about these things, and was it a matter of a natural evolution of thought, or was it as like a revolutionary thing? Let's do this, let's do that.
See, Dr. Juran firmly believes that if you want quality in the DNA of people, start at the top. If you can't get them converted, it's only going to be one more show. We want quality in the culture. Now, also the attributes of a leader he defined as being a facilitator, a catalyst, a trainer, one to many, a coach, a one to one on quality, and a counselor, one to one on behavior in a team. Now, when you put all this together, he was leading me up to recognition. He said, people don't know how to recognize. They flatter, but they don't know how to recognize. Build a robust process for recognition, whereby it becomes aspiration. It'll survive. So, organizational excellence was beyond me at Qimpro, so moved on with RBNQ, Ramkrishna Bajaj Award. Team excellence came with Qualitech on improvements and innovation. And individual excellence came with our Qimpro Awards subsequently. So you're getting the theme that ran through, and it was evolutionary. Now, how do you create that culture? Much depends on your pilot projects that you select. The pilot projects should impact the maximum number of people in your plant. I'll go back to Tata Steel, just to give you a little more of what went into it. When they started nominating projects that they should start with, which will give them COPQ reductions, Mr. Modi stood up and said, enough. I'm not looking for a shareholder. I'm doing quality for my people. What are the pain points of my employees? 65,000 people on campus. Garbage not collected. Leaking roofs in the quarters. Can you imagine the top brass is topping this? Garbage not collected. I won't go through the details. Resulted in savings of 80 crores per annum recurring in 1989. Can you see believers? Believers were born. That's how the large numbers have come up. Another lesson which Dr. Juran emphasized, quality is defined by the customer. And the customer has the right to change his mind. Right? So it's a moving target. You have to be proactive in understanding customer needs. Do qualitists think of that? Future qualitists must proactively chase the customer to understand the customer. Chairman of Hindustan Levers does it, and their term is 5 years. Chairman after chairman after chairman walks the streets to understand customer needs. So you've seen what Unilever is. The second thing Juran would say is, learn to translate the language of your customer into technical language. So who should be engaged in understanding customer needs? Research and development. Do they ever go out to meet customers? They sit in ivory towers. Got it? Are you getting the message?
Yes.
And then we
Yes.
used to hit people below the belt by asking, who pays your salary? Customer. If you can't be customer obsessed, you will not be a qualitist. If you're just consumed in statistics and sigmas and things like that, forget it. You're just, you know, Nero playing the harp. Quality is not complicated if you learn to meet the customer. You want me to talk more, or you would like to ask?
I'm sure the audience and both Balaji and I,
We
we
can
can do
listen to you all day,
this.
but
Yeah. But moving on in the interest of the show, uh, the the quality profession itself, sir, has changed quite a bit, and you've seen most of this change from the beginning. And I'm not just talking about India, but from a global statesman point of view. So quality profession has changed quite a bit. What is your view on it, and where do you think we are headed from a quality profession point of view?
Anshuman, may I just answer a question which Balaji had asked about our Ramkrishna Bajaj Award
right.
before I get to you? And you'll have to repeat this question to me.
Sure.
Sri Ramkrishna Bajaj was my client at Ferguson's as much as Kirloskar Cummins. And his office was 2 buildings away from the office I was parked in. And very often he'd pick up the phone and ask me to come across. I, was a green card holder with a bit of a chip about me, all that. And here we were having oil crisis. OPEC had raised the price. The economy was in turmoil. Indira Gandhi had declared an emergency. Can you imagine my state of mind? What have I come back to? And that was obviously being reflected in my demeanor. Sri Ramakrishna Bajaj never defined the problem straight, but he kept facilitating to me that you have a mission in India. You can't go back. And he was so gentle about it. I actually gave up my green card, my wife's green card, and we stayed on. So now, fast forward, 94. I've been called by Bajaj Electricals for a possible assignment. But Shekhar Bajaj puts a condition to me that you have to start a quality movement in IMC, then I will give you this assignment. So I was bullied into going there. So went there, and the rest is history. Started a Baldrige clone, and I was Sri Ramakrishna Bajaj died at that time, so it was only fitting that we call it the Ramakrishna Bajaj Award, much to the resistance of the Bajaj family. I insisted it has to be called so. So that's to answer your the Ramakrishna Bajaj.
Okay.
So back to you, Anshuman.
Yeah, sure. So and thanks for this. I've worked with you for many years and heard also, I think that almost every anecdote you have, but this is a new one, right? So there is always more to learn. Uh, my question was more on, you've seen the quality profession grow and morph over the years. It has changed significantly. What is your view on the current state of quality profession and where is it headed?
See, when you're confused, ask one question: who's your customer? Let's ask that. Is your customer the buyer? Is your customer society? Is your customer internal, the employee? Is your customer Mother Earth? It'll sober you down. It isn't money, it is quality. One of the lessons I learned from Bombay Dyeing, Mr. Alwa, in textiles they have waft and weft.
Open way.
Now, I get confused about which is waft and which is weft. I think I'm doing it right. He explained to the Quality Council that we live a weft environment, silos going up, and everything is financial. What we need is a waft, a horizontal, a process that cuts across all these functions, delivering to the customer. Unless the two marry, the organization doesn't have a future. So the two top people, according to Juran again, one has to be head of finance, the other head of quality. Operations should report into quality, not the other way around. That's the qualitist of tomorrow. Qualitist of tomorrow will talk a new language, green quality. You're seeing the impact of our careless behavior, how the biodiversity has been damaged, resulting in climate change. Who's responsible? We. We think short term, quarter to quarter results. At any cost, quarter to quarter results. We don't think long term. A green qualitist will think long term. What am I leaving for my children? The time I have is borrowed from my children. I haven't inherited anything. What am I leaving for them? That is, and what we were expecting 40 years from now is now knocking on our door. We need green quality. Mother Earth is the primary customer. If society is an important second customer, then you go. You know, going to certain Aditya Birla Group plants, I didn't understand the significance when I was going there for performance excellence. When at Vikram Cement, I'm being taken to a rose garden. In a cement plant, if you have the most exotic roses growing, it tells you you're looking after the environment. You you don't need anything more. This was the vision of Aditya Birla. You go to Indo-Gulf fertilizers, a fertilizer plant, stench in the air, you would expect. Birds migrating from Siberia come to take rest at Indo-Gulf fertilizer on their journey south. We need to move in those directions. Green quality. A qualitist must think green quality. He must understand the language of money. Okay?
Yeah, really well spoken, sir. I think also extremely important for us is that Balaji and I wanted your response on who's a qualitist and what should the
Yeah.
qualitist do. And I think pretty much
It's
the
wonderful
last
to say
minute
that
is done. But
use the term throughout, qualitist, and it just takes me to the last pages of Dr. Juran's autobiography, Architect of Quality. He ends by saying that there are two things I want to say to the world. One, of course, he says that I've led a wonderful life. Let no one weep for me when I'm gone. But the one sentence before that was, he says, we are actually in the century of productivity. The next century is the century of quality, and we thought we were in the middle of it. And he says, thank your lucky stars, you don't know where you are. And then he of course, in his book, History of Managing for Quality, he introduced the term qualitist. So just to the audience, what are your dreams? You just mentioned here that qualitists must. So what would be a good qualitist, and how do we make this into a national movement? When will people feel that they want to be called as qualitists? Is there anything that you have in mind to take this forward?
See, a qualitist must be part of top management because you're not going to get your priorities right without a qualitist. And if a qualitist is going to insist on four categories of customers: Mother Earth, society, internal customer, and yes, external customer. That's one part. We have to also keep in mind that change is happening very rapidly. So life cycles of products, ideas, etc., are also changing. The manner in which we are communicating today would have been unimagined last year or year before. Attention spans of leaders, of adults, is shrinking. They like you to get to the point in 30 seconds, in 1 minute, or you're lost. And the only way to do it is to communicate through stories. Adults like stories like children. They don't want to be taught anything. They want to learn. They want to learn from stories. Storytelling will be an important skill for a qualitist. But these are a few directions. Most important is green. Green. You have to become green.
No,
I don't have much more to add, but I think I made my point.
no,
Yeah.
totally. I think, and
Thank you.
both Balaji and I, and I'm sure the audience is grateful for the message. So we were we were actually considering, as the towards the end, we will ask you what is your message. But I think you've amplified your message adequately, sir. So we both have just one last question, and then we will see if we have time for audience questions. We normally try that, but we'll look. So what we wanted to know is that what are you reading these days, and what is your next project? Knowing you, you're certainly reading something, and there is something next coming. So a little bit about that.
You'll be surprised. I'm rereading Architect of Quality, the autobiography of Juran. It makes you understand, you know, what determination is. Determination from poverty to get educated, then to become a thinker. Uh, the stories are amazing. The other part in that book, I don't know if Balaji caught it. Juran is not his name.
Yeah.
His grandfather escaped from Russia at the time of the Tsar, and the refuge given to them, a family in Romania, the name of the door was Juran. They adopted that. So now, when people claim they were relatives of Juran with the surname, he said, "Can't be." So he's of Russian origin, actually.
Okay, I think we'll have a look at if some questions are coming. Obviously, I have some.
I'm reading one more book,
Sure.
and I would recommend that to everybody. Ecological Intelligence. Ecological Intelligence by Daniel Coleman.
Okay.
You will understand my thinking once you read this book. He's written other books on intelligence, but he got this one, and it's absolutely captivating. Okay.
Yeah, Daniel Coleman, the same guy who wrote Emotional Intelligence.
Emotional
And,
intelligence.
yeah.
Yes.
Um, so I was looking at the questions that have come in, and most of the questions are around what is the word qualitist, and so you've done adequate justice to that. I would strongly recommend people who want to know more about this subject to check Qimpro.com or the website, Suresh Lulla sir's website, which is on the screen. Every other week, he comes out with the fables and in, thoughts which are worthy of books themselves. So if you follow him on LinkedIn or other social media posts, you will see that he's far more active than we are, and there is always so much more to learn from you, sir. I think there's one question which you might like this, sir. I'll display it on the screen as well. How to select right problems solving tools for problem solving. So this is something which CFQI, CTQI days, if you remember, this is straight out of that CTQI, but
That's right.
anything on that. So thank you, Ajay, for the question, and over to you, sir.
How to select the right problem? Right problem for whom? For senior management? Well, you need to get your cost of work quality assessed and then do a Pareto on those problems. You'll find 20% of the problems account for 80% of the impact. Those 20% problems are simply not delegable. They have to be done by management, the results of which go straight to the bottom line. So that would be one approach to how to select a problem. There are other approaches. You may be looking at warranty, you may be looking at cycle time and customer dissatisfaction, whatever.
Sure.
But you can't go
Thank
wrong with COPQ because that's music to the ears of top management. Any reduction there. I
Sure.
like
Thank
to I like to make a statement to, to management. How would you like to double your profit without capital investment in 2 years? You have the answer. Work on those 20% problems that account for 80% of the COPD.
Yeah. And
A
I'm
quality has to be able to speak this kind of language. That, that is what I'm leading to.
no, totally. I think that's that's been your career and life's message as well. And we've been fortunate that we've not only worked with you, but also tried to imbibe that message. And now we have to take it forward as well. There are quite a few questions even now coming in. But I guess I had asked for only 1 hour of your time, sir. But there is Ashok Kumar asking. But these are many of these questions are on LinkedIn. So what we will do is that we will follow them up and try and answer them on LinkedIn. Really, Rajesh is saying very fortunate to have heard from you. Quite a few messages. Uh, so what we'll do is that Balaji, over to you. If in a minute or so, if you can summarize the show, I think this is a gold mine of knowledge, and we can never have enough of it. But keeping his time in mind, would you like to summarize in a minute, and then I'll wrap up the show?
Yeah, I just want to end by comparing I had the good fortune of only spending an hour with Dr. Juran, and let me tell you, as I walked away from his home, I was full of all kinds of emotions. He treated me like a king, and I want to say that talking to Suresh Lulla sir is the next best thing to talking to Dr. Juran. We in India must be, we are fortunate that we have someone who was nurtured by him, are linked to that generation, the people who pioneered this whole field because of whom we all exist. People don't understand these things, but I think we are witness to a historic interview here, and I hope we do manage to connect with Suresh sir again in some time. I'm quite sure we'll manage something. There's so much to learn from him, and believe me, everybody, this was just the tip of the iceberg. He has so much to say. I think it'll fill up a whole lifetime just sitting down and listening to him. So thank you very, very much, sir. You are our link, like I said, to the previous generation, and you're creating people through Qimpro, through reaching out to others through Qualitech. I'm quite sure we will try to take this legacy forward, bringing up the Qualitist movement, and not just our country, but I think the whole world. It's all global right now, and I think that was the dream even of the pioneers. They never looked at um, a very narrow approach. They always looked global. So thank you very much, sir, for being with us today. We hope for more and more interaction, and I'm quite sure this will lead to a lot of interaction with you directly for many people who are logged in and watching this. Thank you again.
Thanks, Balaji. You wanted to say something, sir?
Oh, okay. I'll give one last parting one. Dr. Juran was an anthropologist and interested in Egyptian and Indian anthropology. So, in one conversation, we spoke about Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, quality planning, quality control, quality improvement. Brahma sets the standard, Vishnu maintains the standard, and Mahesh challenges the standard. And he did believe, while doing the study on history of quality, that the Nataraja, if at all Indians have to worship a quality god, it should be the Nataraja, the dance of perfection. Okay, I'll close with that.
Thank you.
Sure. Quite a few questions still coming in, but to all those people who are asking these questions, Govind, Rituraj, we remember, I'm sure Mr. Lulla remembers you from Thai acrylic time, and Govind Raj, of course, quite a few years of association. So quite a few questions, sir. But like I said, we are already up on time. Thank you very much for your time. And to all our to all audience who've been here today, I hope, both Balaji and I hope that we were able to put together a show that you will remember. And I said it in the beginning that this is the show that I wanted to do when I started the series. But it took me a while to get here because I had to be worthy of Mr. Lulla's time. And with this interview, I must announce that this is the end of a series. I can't better this one. So the series will end here. And we will come back with another series in some weeks' time on more technology oriented shows. So thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Balaji, and the audience. What just quick announcement, slight housekeeping announcement. The the show will be, of course, is live on LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitter, but a recording will be immediately available, and a podcast version for those who are audiophiles or want to listen to interviews while walking or other forms or traveling. That will be available in about a week. So with that, thank you very much once again, all of you, and to the audience certainly. Till the next time, manage better.